lesson of chess and psychology. Today we're going to talk a lot about the Italian and maybe some events, because I've had a bunch of events being played with me recently on the stream, and it's been going fun, so why not? Let's look at that too. So I've played a lot against Italian with black. There are a lot of different variations, a lot of different ways to play it, and it's been I played a lot with different openings, different ways, and so far I think I'm happy with what I've found, and so I'd like to share that with you today. So let's dive in. So this is the typical position for Italian, and I'm a big fan of just playing bishop c5. I don't really like to play this knight f6 lines, but I've tried it before. So for me, bishop c5. So here, if b4, then we got advance. If c3 with d3, that's the closed Italian, and then there is one with d4. D4, and so that's, hopefully I'll get to cover all of it for you today. Let's start with the basics, like c3. So with c3, whoa, sorry, I am sorry, that would be my ad from the other laptop connecting me to YouTube. Haha. Hello everyone. I see Nixon, I see Brian Clark. Hi Peter. Okay, so here let's just look at the simple knight f6. There's d3, there's d4, and recently there has been a bunch of a4s, the idea of a4 that has been emerging, but let's just look at the d4 first. So after d4, taking is the main one. Now white has different possibilities. There is castle, there is e5, and there is take. So let's look at take first, because that's something that it's been played most. After check, now there is three legal moves, but two good moves: the knight coming to c3 and the bishop coming to d2. So bishop coming to d2, that's one of the most famous ones, because there is this take d5, and people tend to think of it as repetition a lot. It's a way to do these repetitions, and so that's something that I've seen a lot happen. But you, as black, if you don't want the repetition, you don't have to do it, and you can simply play knight to e7, knight back to e7 to protect your knight over here. And your future plans would be c6 to enforce this knight and get this bishop out to f5 or g4, and to work on this isolated pawn. So let's say, for example, after knight e7, you get castle. So here actually I had a game, whoops, that's my fault. Oh, that is still my fault, I don't know, there we go. Now it's fixed. So I had a game that I played with when I was playing the youth championships in Asia, and I really hated to make draws because I wanted to keep fighting and fighting. So I came up with some of the things that my opponent didn't like, and so I looked this, I remember right before the match, and I got the position that I wanted with c6, and it's just something that I wanted to follow the strategy that I knew, and so I was really working on that to get the bishop out, to start working on the d4 weakness. And we are still looking at everything from black side, so that there was a question in chat. So for example, alright, so one thing to keep in mind is this position, if you get into endgame with black, that's something that you want. So this queen b6 could be a possibility to think about, because let's say if rook e1, you get queen b6. If take, you simply take with pawn, and now you have another weakness to attack, and you can start playing like this and go after d4 pawn. So it's just really safe, basically. So my opponent played knight e4. I still followed my plan. I did the awesome pin. So now here I want to ask audience what you want to do with black. You see your knight is knight is under attack with this one. Your bishop is under attack with that knight. But do you want to move the bishop, or do you want to let this exchange happen? So let's see who wants to play what. What software am I using? ChessBase. I grew up with ChessBase. I am a ChessBase fan. I like the way it organizes files and everything. So Connor wants to play bishop g6. Interesting. Any other? Bishop takes e4. Possible, but you would be giving your opponent a lot of activity. So maybe think of something that doesn't give white activity, and you're activating your pieces, maybe. Bishop e6, knight f4. Knight f4 is I'm a little worried after knight f4. Queen goes to f3. So if you play bishop e6, the thing is knight g5, and you are still going to lose this bishop just in a worse way, because you have to stop the mate. So something like g6 and take, and your pawn structure got really unpleasant. So bishop e6, if you want to play bishop e6, then you have to have considered knight g5. So yeah, thank you for those of you who are suggesting moves with rook. Yeah, rook d8. Rook d8 is simple. If you take on f5, I'll take back. When you take the knight on here, I just take back with the rook. I'm already bringing everything to attack your pawn over here. So now I'm attacking two of your pawns. Yeah, exactly. Queen b2 might be coming up too. Good one, Nixon. So this is what happened in the game as well, because at this point, if white didn't take here, d4 is still falling, b2 is still falling, so something like rook d1, and there is the possibility of taking on b2. Whoops, sorry, there is rook b1. Is there a knight queen takes d4? Nope, there are no tactics here. If the other rook goes, however, now you do have queen takes b4, because you end up with the last queen d4, but be careful with this little queen traps. Now you can, I think, simply just keep on putting more pressure on d4. Should be good enough. Something like knight b4. You move the queen somewhere and you lose this knight. Yeah, everything should be very pleasant enough. Yep, rook d8, queen takes b2. Yeah, those are coming up. Alright, so now what do you think white can do? Is there any way for white to try and defend this pawn? Something like immediate, like direct defense doesn't really work, because I just take it back. Same for rook coming to c4. I can just simply take it back. So any indirect ways to protect this pawn? I'm seeing a lot of rook d1s and rook c4s, but still not really working. So one thing that white could do to try and slightly trick me is rook c5. Because after rook c5, if you take, there's take with pawn, and now the pawn structure is getting strong, or take with knight, attacking this knight as well. So after rook comes to c5, one thing that you shouldn't do with black is take that rook. Now, is it possible to take over here, take on d4? Or would you rather just play something more strategic? I do see some rook c5s, nice. I think the problem is if you take knight takes d4, rook takes on d5, cd5, and something like knight c3, and now it's white who's starting to attack your pawn a little, and you're giving white clear weakness. So that's why something like knight d4 wouldn't work. I mean, it works, but preferably you want to try for more. So I'm getting rook fd8, good one fragrance, and Kostanin, rook fd1. Yeah, me too. I'm not the biggest fan of something like rook d4 as well. Good one, Amadox, because yeah, knight f6 looks cool, doesn't it? You take, queen takes f5, and now white's got a lot of activity. Yeah. Alright, so I'm glad we all agree on rook coming to d8. Great. So after rook comes to d8, you still have all of those threats plus more. Now you want to take on c5. Whoops. Now if it's black to move again, black wants to take on c5 because it's attack with 2, and there's this pin, so this guy's falling. So that's why white kind of has to take. And after rook takes d5, you take back with rook, so you are still have all of the pressure on d5 and also keep your pawn structure all nice. Knight goes to c3. Now what do you want to do? This is super easy intermediate moves. I know all of you can find it, I just need someone to say it. Oh, nice to see I have some Persian audience. Yeah, good one, Connor. Queen takes d4 and everything is safe. And this is an endgame that should be easily winnable. Your rook is more active, you have a more pawn, you have this majority pawn. Just have to be careful not to play inaccurate moves. Alright, so here, after queen takes d4, queen goes to c. Let's say queen goes to c2. There are a few moves left in the game, so I'm going to show you. So you're black. You know that you have advantage, but how can you make progress? So what do you want to do? Ideally, some sort of a plan, or like next 2-3 moves, like where do you want your rook to be, your knight, your queen, some stuff like that. While you think, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of background story on this game too. So this was in Asian Youth 2013, and I won that championship, and it was my second gold in Asian Youth. and it was a nice tournament. I liked everything, um, mainly because I won it. And it was, I think 2013 was one of the early years that I started to see chess as something more serious than just a game for me. So basically, after like second year that I won the Asian Championship, I started thinking it could be more than just a hobby, and so that was kind of funny. And yeah, so I'm not entirely sure about the FIDE rules right now, but after I won this tournament, I realized that, oh wow, since it was under 16, after I won it, I got a 1 WIM norm, and I realized that I already had like two. That would be that. This was my second WIM norm, and I was like, wow, cool. Well, just need one more to go, and bunch of rating. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Um. All right. So let's get back to the chess aspect of it. So we have rook c5, queen d2, rook e5. Thank you. We have Josh Friedel in the chat. Welcome, welcome. So there, I feel like something like queen d2 is also clear and nice, but queen d2 you might give the chance for like something like maybe queen comes to e4 and activating the queen. So just let's do Dorsa style, not giving any chance to your opponent. So maybe I like those of you who suggested rook e5. I like it. So Raif also suggests g6. g6 is the next move coming up soon, because you want to open some room for your king to breathe. So that's something that you're gonna do sooner or later, preferably sooner. And so I like rook e5 just because it created more opportunities and took away the rookie ones and all of those. So thank you. Yeah, thank you, Madux. Okay, so rook comes to e5. Let's say rook d1. What do you want to do as black? It's important to be able to keep your cool and win the game after you have advantage, because sometimes when you have advantage and it's not like a clear tactic or a clear end game, it's easy to mess it up. So let's try to win beautifully over here. Well, actually, someone already said what to do, so I'm just gonna go ahead. Yeah, Imadex, true. Rook c5 is also Dorsa style. Good one. There's no way I can say that name, but I'm going to try. Schmatter. That's I already said it correctly, and also Nixon. Yep. G6. Good one. So the whole idea is you're not going to take it because I mate you, and to put it simply, and yeah, so g6 is pretty cool. My opponent played g3. Now, where do you want to put your queen? Queen g4. I think queen g4 is definitely interesting. Queen c5. I think I don't think there is like a right square for where to put the queen, but I really wanted to have this queen support the rook, so I went queen c4 and then queen e6, because I wanted to start trying to create chances in the open file, and I didn't want my opponent to keep attacking my queen, so I just went back, hid behind the rook. And now it's time to start pushing some pawns. So some pushing and protecting my pawns. Now, so can someone finish this game, please? This is, remember, this is a very lonely king. These are very ready pieces. Any fun checks? Any fun sacrifices? Yeah, alright, everyone sees it. Knight h4, good one. Take, check, and it's already bye-bye, see you next game. Because king f1 is the only one that prolongs it by one move, and bye-bye. So this was a very interesting game for me, because I do remember she was one of the opponents that I had to face every youth Asian championship, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait to be done with my category. And yeah, it was one of those opponents that you always played, so it was nice to beat her. Cool, right? Alright, so let's go back to our main Italian. So we just looked at some ideas with this knight e7. Now there are some lines that have been emerging, and queen a3 seems to be coming up and worth a try. So if you're with white, you're looking up for something to look at, it's this queen a3, because it makes it more uncomfortable for black to castle and play c6, and there is another line. If your opponent plays like knight a5, queen a4 check, and then queen a3, that's another one. So these are just some stuff to think about with white. And so we looked at this bishop d2 defense. Now let's take a quick look at knight c3. So after knight c3, I played two games that were very interesting, and so in both of them I took on e4. I do remember something with bishop c3 as well earlier. I gave this a try too, and here, what do you think white should do? I want to test your knowledge for white, because why not? And white does have different possibilities to try. And yeah, there is a possibility of take on f7 maybe. Something to try and maneuver on that. There should be d5 already. So let me know what you want to do with white. Queen e2, yeah. I'm thinking if queen comes to e2, what about d5? So if bishop takes f7, king takes f7, what now? Do you think that's something that actually works, or bishop f7 is a little too early? For me, I'm kind of a fan of d5 thinking about it, because d5 you gotta move the knight, and then you get some bishop d3s and you can give some check. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But bishop d5 also, yeah. After take, bishop d5 is also a good possibility. Knight f6. And what do you want to do now with white? Castles are always possible at this point. But yeah, knight takes e4 makes it slightly, gives a lot of chance to white. So that's something that we don't want to do. And after take, bishop c3 is not the best, because after knight takes e4 with black, your position has lots of holes, and it's simply not worth it, because after knight c3, take on e4. The easiest way for white to play is to d5, still in my opinion, still just d5. And if you go knight to a5, your knight is really looking to be easily trapped over here. And now you gotta move this knight, and there are always bishop a3s, at least, trying to close up, and then some checks coming up. So white's position is way more active for just one pawn. So d5 it would be my first choice. And if knight e7, there are still lots of, I'm just thinking about queen e2, trying with d6, maybe bishop a3, maybe d6 now. Whoa, so many possibilities. I still like queen e2, to be honest. If knight goes to d6, trying to close up a little bit. Even if castle, this is really, how are you going to get this bishop out? I have castle, I have knight g5, I have bishop g5. Everything seems to be going pretty decent for black. Yeah, so no need to try to play around with this bishop c3. One other thing that I wanted to show you was with bishop d2, there is another line, like with black, you don't have to take it on, you don't have to take d2. So there is a slightly tricky line with knight takes e4, but it's still, it doesn't feel like it has that much game to it. So knight takes e4, bishop takes b4, you take back, and your idea is if queen b3 too early, now you have d5. And you get to this position, you get your castle, and now you have this weak pawn to go after with no bishops on the board for white. So that's just a simple idea like that. But the best line for white is to actually take this bishop takes f7. After king f7, now give it check. And there is possible, but it's not the most desired one. Fun fact, king e6 is actually interesting here. So yeah, if king e6, the queen b4, there's a bunch of queen d6. It gets a little weird endgame, but it's doable and it's quite interesting. So there's that. Yeah, white does play bishop f7 in this line, and black's idea is to just like do this fake kind of castle, either with rook on f8 or e8 and try for this. But I'm not the biggest fan of this line because there is this knight e5s and the knight gets really strong. So just if you're playing with white, remember to take it first and give then queen b3. So someone asked to show this line with white. So basically it's the simple Italian, open Italian, and after take we looked at bishop d2 and the idea with knight takes e4. This is what we were looking at just right now. Yeah. Yep, that is true. There are isolated pawns everywhere, and king e6 was very interesting. I played it out in a few rapid games, rapid and blitz games. It was fun, but the end game wasn't really, how do you say, that pleasant for me. It was interesting, but not my top choice of endgame, to be honest. So yeah. Alright, so let's just go back to the good old knight c3 that people love to play. So here, take, castle. We all know this lines, right? This fun d5. So d5 is the main one, but taking is also something that has been played. So let's say white doesn't know they have to play d5 and just take early on. Now what do you want to do with black? I'm testing your knowledge right here, right now. king f8 instead of d5 survar. Well, d5 in that position, d5 is something that's kind of, it's good to do it because you're stopping the check, you're opening your bishop, and if you play king f8, your rook, you don't know what to do with your rook. So yeah. Yeah, d5 here. Good one. So after d5, I had someone play bishop a3 with me and someone play bishop d3 with me. So like for example, if bishop a3, I think bishop a3 is the more annoying one, because if something like bishop d3, you just get your castle and next you are trying to go bishop g4. So like h3, and it's very playable with black. So we are gonna look at something like with bishop a3, and so here after bishop a3, what do you want to do with black? Well, kind of weird to ask because we were showing it on screen, but still, how do you want to try and castle with black? Do you want to try and take the bishop, or oh yeah, hi. Yep, we are live. How do I work on endgame? Specific book are studying? For me, the way I wanted to play this, the way I understood the endgames was mainly practical. So I tried to understand what am I looking for in that endgame, and then I just tried to play it out. The one book that I absolutely loved was the Dvoretsky endgame. So this is not, it's a mix of games, not just mine. But yeah, I did see in the chat someone mentioned Fragrance. Yeah, the Stanislavski, that's the game I was actually going to show right now. Because so in this game that I played, I was a kid and I didn't know the games of my big guys by heart. So I chickened out and I played bishop e6, but bishop d takes c4, taking the bishop is the best one. And this is a game between Steinitz and Lasker in 1896. Whoa. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm gonna show you this game quickly because it was very beautiful and I really enjoyed it. So after like d takes c4, the main thing to be worried about is rook e1, right? f5 to keep your knight and try and create some room for your king. You run away with the king because if you don't, f3 is coming up. Least of all, take. Now, rook f4 could be a serious threat, queen f3 could be a serious threat, so queen f6 should be your main move. Queen e2 is what Steinitz played. Now, black to move, what do you want to do? For those of you who know it, maybe give like 20 seconds before saying the move. I was born in Iran, moved here in 2017. f5 was weird. Why not queen d5? Because if queen d5, there was, to answer soul sync, if queen d5, there was knight d2, and then f3, it kept pinning your knight and eventually pick it up. There was one good endgame book that was very practical. It was like 1,000 tactics in endgames, and it just showed the tactical aspects of endgame. I'm getting some knight a5, bishop d7, bishop e6. Yeah, thank you. I was waiting to see bishop f5. Alright, so Zakayo, bishop f5, good one. Queen takes. What do you want to do with your king? d5, it would be annoying, yeah. It's the price you pay for having an extra piece, right? So, SoulSync, if you're still talking about queen d5 instead of f5, well, after knight d2, your knight is kind of falling. So, the idea is to try and keep the knight. We could try and go back to the position after we look at the game. Yep. Thank you, Josh Friedel. King g6. And everybody else who are saying king g6. Alright, so king g6, and it feels pretty safe, doesn't it? Rook goes to e3. You might want to try and give me some checks. Who cares about checks? I'm gonna try and exchange some rooks. And now this might be getting a little bit too real, so we are gonna run away with our king. So now everything is safe, right? You're just one piece up and just have to show a little bit more technique and win the game. Just like last gear did, right? We like last gear, don't we? Alright, so I'm gonna stop showing this game here because it should be doable. And you just please don't blunder and keep activating your pieces. Yeah. Hi, Manuel. Yeah, alright. Glad everyone are. What would white have played if black didn't play bishop e6 instead of bishop f5? So I guess you're asking here if bishop e6. The one thing that I am thinking of that I don't know if I should be is just d5, take, check, pick this guy up to answer Ekpo. I guess that's, yeah. I think that's the easiest way to see why bishop e6 is wrong. And there was another question a while back about queen d5 here, that I said queen d5, there's knight d2 least of all, and now if f5, f3, and I pick this knight up, and then you also can't castle, so it's a sad position. If bishop e6, just pick this knight up with whichever piece you want, and you are trying to just keep your pieces. Alright, glad. Thank you, Philippe. Alright, so I guess everyone's happy with this game, so am I. dc4. So if you're black and your opponent plays weird stuff, do take the piece, but know what you're doing. Don't just fall into traps. Alright. Hi, Storm. Alright, so in the game, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I slightly chickened out, and I played bishop e6, and I'm gonna show you very quickly why bishop e6 made my games a little bit miserable. Bishop d3, I tried to still go for castle, and I got myself into this position. So lovely, right? Because if I take with queen, unfortunately there is knight g5s. I'm trying to see if this works. I don't think it does, because there is this bishop f5 at the end. So at least that doesn't work. But simply knight to g5, and it's making my position very uncomfortable already. least of all there's take, and now come deal with this pawn structure. So that's why I just took here and felt really miserable. Remember, I was a kid. I was what, like 12 years old, 13 years old, so this is not my most proud game. I'm just showing you some things to do as white. Let's go with that. And there is a very cute tactic that I want to show as well that my opponent missed. So the kid that I went for the tricky mate. So tricky, right? And still trying to trick my opponent. Still pushing for more. Some more pushings. And here I played rook f6, which was not my best choice of move. But can someone tell me how can white get immediate advantage? I am thinking about Ben Simon. That's sorry, my bad. That's the wrong name for the game. This game was 2011. Sorry, not in database.
Against who?
This is against a guy named Khaghani, and it was in 2011. My bad. You guys are nuts. I'm kind of pleased to see I'm not the only one who missed it. Yeah, trade queen for the 2 rooks. That's the good one. Yeah. So you should take over here. Take that, and it's not 2 rooks, it's 2 rooks and the bishop. That's the fun part of it. So, yeah. Queen f6 is the easiest one. Because remember guys, your checks and takes. Do you see any reasonable check here? Not really. What are your takes? Taking on c8, taking on this rook, taking on here, that doesn't work, taking on c6, which is also weird. So, always take a little breather to look at all the checks and takes. So, now, my opponent played queen c5, and I got advantage because I managed to double my rooks up and give this lovely check. And it's very nice to be able to finally get mates, right? Alright, so I wanted to share this line about knight c3 and why it is wrong to take back immediately. So I'm gonna show you very briefly on not to take back. So d5. Alright, first of all, I'm gonna give a second to talk to you, see on the chat if there are any questions or recommendations on what to do in this position. Because a lot of you guys already know it, but it's never a bad idea to refresh your memory now, is it? So yeah, you gotta get back to f6, that is true. Yep. So there has been some people have tried knight e5, which seemed, because a little too old, seemed to be interesting. Knight e5 was played by like Karpov and Dominguez and Wanveli, and they gave it a try years ago, 10 years, 20 years ago, but it has this. There is one other game, but this knight e5 seems to be not so pleasant, mainly because just take on c3, and then after take on c3 with white, you kind of already have a little bit of the edge. And so now if you take here, there is queen e2 and attacking both knights. Knight d6, there's knight d2. Knight d6, there's knight d2. And so that's it's doable, worth a try if you want to with black. But yeah, so basically bishop f6 is the way to go. Whoops. Bishop f6 is the way to go. Whoa, for a second. I keep touching my knights. Alright, so let's play bishop f6. And now everything is kind of very fast forward for white. And now you take this guy. You want to play this d6 early on, so you open your bishop up. If not, d6 with white is coming. And after that, bishop g5 seems to be the main one. There are some stuff with like bishop b5 has possibilities too, but I'm just trying to show you what to look for with white and black. Hug to Brazil, yeah, of course. Thank you, Manuel. I was in Brazil 2011. I liked it. I miss Caleb, then me too. He should be here tomorrow. Knight e5 gives pawn on c3. Yeah, they're all correct. Yeah. So, glad to know we are all on board with our openings. Haha. So I'm just going to show you really quickly so we can move on to more tricky stuff. So here, let's look at bishop g5 because seems to have the most, seems to have the most interest. Alright, so so after bishop g5 take, you take with knight. The one thing to keep in mind with black is that your castle is going to be very hard to do because you don't really want to deal with this queen h5 or taken in queen h5, and very unpleasant, isn't it? So that's why, and even if you play h6 now, that also doesn't work because of queen h5. So here are some things to keep in mind. So what do you think black should do? I might be trying to trick you about castle on h6, so don't take my word for it, just some things to think about. I do like to be a little tricky on chat. So what do you want to do with black? Yeah, so Josh Friedel, I stopped impersonating Caleb a few days ago. I might start impersonating him again soon. But we'll see. We'll see if the Twitch Moobot lets me have my own name or not. Yeah, okay, so wow, there are a lot of different suggestions. So yeah, bishop f5 is not ideal because you do run into queen h5, but queen h5 there's bishop g6, king f8. Oh, lovely. There's so many suggestions. I thought this was a very well-known line. Never mind. Okay, so alright, let's get back to the chess aspect of it. So, full transparency, h6 does work because if queen comes to h5, now you can just castle, and there you kind of avoided the threats. You're protecting your f7, and there is no threat on h7 anymore, so you're good. h6 is the best one. I was trying to trick you. I'm glad it worked a little bit. And castle knight h7 is still a possibility, and then take and check and rook h4. You still could try to run away with like you gotta move the f pawn, so with like f5, I guess, but I wouldn't really recommend this. Not something you want to see in like move 13, 14. So actually 15. Well, here is 16. Never mind. But still, don't give your opponent too many chances. So don't do the early castle. Do the h6 one with the idea of castle, and after h6, queen e2 is the best one for white, because white's putting up some more pressure. Take, rook e1. Now, you don't want to allow this rook coming to 7th rank, so it's a good idea to block it off. After take, you play your f6 a little bit. And so now your idea is to try and open up here a little bit, depending on how fast or how slow white plays. If you're lucky, you might be able to do long castle, but it's highly unlikely. So another thing that you can try and do is get your king over here. And white's idea is to come and exchange this rook and give some checks. So here's the summary of what to look for from here on out. Good luck. Let me know how it turns out when you play a few games. Alright. What happens after h6, queen h5? You just play castle. To answer Imadux. Oh, that's cool, Storm. It's not like you're. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice, because you are going to lose a piece right now. It's just a matter of which one to lose. Alright. Yeah, the position is a little bit risky, and that's kind of the price of having more pawns. You're paying that price. But yeah, it's not my first choice to have. Alright, so that's all I wanted to show you for the Open Italian. There is a funny line with e5 that could be that you can get to this position with different possibilities a lot. So there's that too. And so here, so alright, I'm gonna take a little pause so everyone's caught up and feel comfortable, and if they have suggestions we can see that too. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, ideally you want to get your pieces out. Yeah, Tranquil Clark, yeah, you want to bring out c6 and get your queen out in the previous position. I am a woman GM, and I am. Okay, alright. Yeah, how is everybody feeling on this? Any suggestions to share about this position? Ah, thank you, Storm. No one? No one wants to say anything? Alright, it's okay. So, the best way for whites to approach it is take. So I'm gonna briefly show you some of the fun mistakes that people usually do. One of them is take, which is you just take with queen and voila, you are at least a pawn up. And you just castle, and next you bring up bishop g4, and everything is lovely. Alright, just some of the stuff that white sometimes do, and as black you can tank them. There is this knight d4 too that people like sometimes, but you can simply castle, and if take there is queen h4, and if not, later on, sooner than later you're gonna play bishop a6. What else is there for white not to do? Same with taking with knight. There are still lots of ideas with queen h4 or take and sacrificing this rook with bishop a6. So there are some ideas. Taking back with pawn is the most common one, and alright, some people play bishop b4. My preference is with bishop b6 to keep the pressure on d4. I'm gonna take another breather and see how everyone's doing on chat. Maybe get some recommendations, suggestions. How do you get to this? e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6, d4, take e5, and then you do d5. Why sack the rook? It's a possibility that I've tried in some blitz games. It feels nice, and you are, so to answer Brawl Arena, you are playing bishop a6 to stop white's castling, so that's why. Thank you, Tranquillian Clark. You need white side. I know, right? I've done so much white in the last few lessons that we've had. I decided to do some black perspective too. Alright, nobody has any questions here? Alright, can't force you. But, so, as black, your idea is pretty clear. You're gonna get that guy out, you're gonna do this, and f6 or f5. So, that's your general idea. As white can try to play h3 to stop it, or white can try to play knight c3, or castle. So those are just some of the things, and I'm gonna show you just one game because I don't want to get into too much details. Alright, so this is a game that I played, again, Kid Dorsa played in 2013. Why am I showing so many Italian 2013s? Why did I have so much Italian happen to me in 2013, right? 2013 should be renamed the Italian name. Alright, so I had the idea to just simply get my pieces out, and this was in World Youth Championship. Okay, so if h3, I still was going to try and open the position like that a little bit. And here is this really cute tactic. I can't say tactic, haha. And it's very interesting. It's definitely worth a try, but be sure to look into it more detailed, because depending on where the king goes, because king goes back, it's a blunder. And king comes to f3, there's bishop d4, and then you're trying to get this guy out, and rook f8, and it's very lovely. I was so waiting for some opponent to let me play this knight f2. Never got it in real life. The opening variation, I thought I did with e4. No? This was 2013. This was way, way before. Alright, so knight c3, bishop g4, bishop e2. I've had some opponents who played bishop e3 with me, and I've always tried this f5 because I feel like it's slightly tricky too. Because if you take it, alright, great, I just take it back. If you don't take it, then you play something just to develop. Then I have this f4 coming up, so something to keep in mind. What's my ranking on leeches? I'm not the biggest fan of leeches. No disrespect, just I grew up loving chess24. Sorry, I have a good rating there. I like to keep it. So, and chess.com, but still chess24. Yeah, when you live in Spain, you get consumed by chess24. Couldn't help it. Alright, so let's say opponent plays bishop e2. There are a lot of different variations, like black could just like deal with this, and then there's like some weird variations that you can maybe take some stuff. It can get really weird really quick, so be careful not to just exchange everything off. My advice. But yeah, it is very pleasant because now you get this pin and you're attacking this one, so eventually white will take on c6 usually. Anyways, so we got this bishop e2. So my question to you guys, do you want to try and go for this pawn, or do you see any reason to like play bishop f3, or do you want to continue with our plan with like f6 or f5? I did partner with chess24 briefly, and I did some videos for them. It was fun, I liked it. Why are we moving a6? Oh, we are not moving a6 yet. Why aren't we? Well, the thing is, white bishop on b5 is very unstable, so white would have to move it eventually. So, that's something that like a6 would kind of be a waste of tempo. What if queen d3? The d4 pawn is still very sad. So black to move, what do you want to do? Okay, so you want to play f5 or f6? Alright, so no one okay, I have one person who wants to take. Yay, why not? Let's take a look. So if take on d4, bishop e4, because if knight takes, there is the possibility of losing the, well, not losing, but not having two bishop, and as white you would prefer to keep more pieces. Why not? If knight takes here, there's queen d5, and losing a pawn like that. And in the game I didn't really see this like idea with f5. I thought this was a little too good to be true, but if it was right now, I think this is the line, whoops, I would pick queen e5. Yeah, trying to break down center, very good. f6 is coming up, you guys are a little behind, sorry. So yeah, that's the whole idea, that we would want to get the queen out to in the center, and we are attacking this little guy a little bit. Oh, well, good night, Tranquil Clark. Well, this will be on YouTube later, so come back and see. Alright, so if it was me right now, I think I would, and if I saw that idea with f6, which is doable, but sometimes stuff can slip, I would definitely go for this. But in the game, I rushed it a little and I played f6. And I saw that there are some ideas with just stuff like that, and I wanted to avoid that, so I went king h8. And after take, I realized that, oh, whoops, well, I can't take with queen, because knight takes d5. King h8, if I remember correctly from my side, felt like a blunder at the game, because if my king was still on g8, I could simply play knight takes c3 and queen takes f6. But because my king is not on g8 anymore, I kind of decided to give up an exchange for activity. So, to put it this way, I slightly blundered in the game. The 15-year-old Dorsa slightly blundered, but successfully managed to get back and play actively. So there's that. Alright. So, what I was thinking about was if my opponent could play something like this, but it is way too passive because now it's just two bishops against two pieces against the rook, and that's very nice for me. But knight g5 is the kind of a killer move. If I take on e2, I can actually get really uncomfortable. It is possible. This is still very doable. Whoops, sorry. I keep forgetting there's a queen under attack. But this is still very doable. But I was hoping for more in the game, so I decided to not exchange the bishops, because this would least of all give way too much activity to my opponents. So, yeah, I was thinking on my feet. How to know where to break down a pawn structure? For me, I read a bunch of books about pawn structures, and it kind of felt more natural. So that's an advice, to read more pawn structure based books, just to get a good grip of like isolation pawns, the hanging pawns, those guys. So I decided to go with bishop f5 to keep the bishop, to keep some safety over here, which resulted in bishop g5. And now black to move. What do you want to do? C5 where? There was a very nice, these two books that I read, Winning Pawn Structures. Actually, it's called Winning Pawn Structures, and there was another one by Ivan Sokolov, Winning Chess Middle Games. The Winning Pawn Structure one was by Alexander Baburin. So those were the two books that I liked. There were many other good pawn structure books too. I got like Understanding. There is another one that I liked, Understanding the Pawn Play in Chess. But there's so many good books. You really can't go wrong. So, knight takes d4. Knight takes d4 is one of the ones to think about. But do you want to take knight takes d4 or bishop takes d4? Rook g6 after queen e5 in the last one. I'll get to it after this game because I don't want to keep jumping branch if that's okay. But queen d4, bishop d4. Well, bishop d4 gives you more activity, so bishop d4 is the better one. The thing that I worried me with knight d4 was if take stuff with knight d5. I didn't want to lose this bishop. So we can't just go with bishop d4. Take. Now you have sacrificed. You've sacrificed exchange for a pawn, so you gotta play very dynamically. So your next few moves are gonna be bringing the rook, replacing the bishop. So this was not my first choice. I would prefer to win it very clean instead of sacrificing, but yeah, exactly. Knight d5 would make it a little more uncomfortable. So my opponent played queen b3. I didn't want to lose a pawn, and I wanted to keep attacking. Now bishop e5 might be coming up, so she tried. So knight c5, knight c7 doesn't work because of bishop e5. Whoops, I gave up some moves. But if knight goes to e3, now you still have bishop e5, g3, bishop h3. You see, now the position got really active, really fast, really dynamic. So here, white to move, white played knight g4, take, and black to move. What do you want to do? While you guys think of this, I'm gonna head back to chat. How about gf6 after bishop f6? gf6 is possible, but if you really don't want to sacrifice the exchange, yeah, gf6 is possible, but gf6 makes it slightly uncomfortable. Oh, I have greetings from Poland. Thank you. Yeah, knight d4 is also coming up. So, what do you want to do? Knight d4, maybe bishop d4. Okay, the professor, you are right. Bishop d4 again. Because knight d4 is interesting, but you don't really have a real threat. Knight f3 is not a real threat right now, because just bishop f3 and queen come and defend on f1. So you want to simply relocate your bishop first and see what he wants to do. Well, rook d2 can't work because of, well, oopsie blunder. Queen c2 doesn't work because you again go over here. So that's why something like rook f1 can work. If rook f1, now there is, ooh, I don't want to say it. Alright, so it's interesting, and you can clearly see that black has a nice attack. So what do you want to do with black? I see this move being said already in chat a little bit, so I see. Okay, Fragrance, you are right. Imadux, you are right. Okay, I think you guys have a good idea. Yeah, bring the knight. Now, if you touch this bishop, now I could have a serious idea of just queen h3 and knight f3 coming up. So she played h3 just so that she could try and not get knight f3. But after take, now black to move. Please find me the win. It should be easy enough. Yeah, rook on f1 is suffocating it, right? Ah, thank you. That's very nice of you. I'm glad my explanations make sense. Alright, I see a few people already saying it. Alright, yeah, you guys are all right. Rook goes to f3 and great. So rook goes to f3 and gladly this lovely mate's coming up. So my opponent saw that and she decided to elongate the game a little, be a little bit tricky, stopping that, getting some room for my king, and just easy winning. So yeah, I hope you guys like this game. This was another very doable game. Alright, let's look at another one. Okay, so I've shown you how to play against these little funny lines with the e5 with d4. So I want to show you another line. So how about early d4? There are early d4s, there are castles, there are b4s. I kind of want to show you an advanced game or two, and then we'll go back to usual Italian. Alright, so in this advanced game, taking is always a good possibility. If you don't want to take it, you don't have to, but then it might get uncomfortable with b5. So I always recommend taking. c3. Bishop e7 is also another possibility, but I'm a big bishop a5 fan. And now there are two main possibilities: queen d4 and queen b3. I'm gonna show you both of them because I had two games in these lines as well. So someone played queen b3 with me, and I wasn't entirely sure where to put my queen because knight h6, I don't want to do that to defend this pawn. So queen e7 and queen f6 are the two possibilities. So my question to you, what do you want to do with black? So no one? No suggestions? Yeah, queen e7 is good. I really wanted to go with queen f6, so I went with queen f6, but I think both of them are good and doable. Queen f6, the main thing is castle because d4 doesn't seem to work as well. d4 is possible, but you take again, and if castle, we're getting back to normal advance. But e5s don't work, bishop a3s are still a little too funky, so you could try just d6 or to avoid e5s and just try to normal develop. That is a possibility, but let's say castle. So what do you want to do with black? Andre, queen e7 is good. Knight f6 could be coming up. What I was worried about was queen e7. There could be lots of chances with like e5 and bishop a3, and those I just didn't really want to take any chances, but it is always possible. So both of them are good. Yeah, but knight can just go to e7, and depending on how position is closed or open, d5 could be useful, knight g6 could be useful. So here knight e7 is possible, but bishop b6 felt more like tricky. And after bishop b6, Now I want to try this knight a5, right? So also trying to stop d4, but d4 can still happen. So let's say d4 happens. Now what do you want to do with black? You don't want to be black with advance? I know. Yeah, I saw it. I know you do play advance. So not the worst thing to look at with whites, right? The problem is if something like d6, the problem is if you play d6, one thing that could bother you is could be this d5, but bishop g5 is also coming up, and not the most pleasant way. Yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of d6, to be honest, because d6 is interesting, but gives white lots and lots of different chances. Like, first of all, this. Even if knight goes to a5, check over here, coming here, and this would stop you from castling, and it's very unpleasant. So that's why I went for take. And the thing is, if you take back, I'm definitely gonna take this. You take, I'm taking with bishop. That's a free, healthy rook. I'm always hungry for pieces. So that's why the only one to actually consider deeply is e5. Now, well, with black, you pretty much have two good places to go. Queen g6, knight h4 could be slightly worrisome, because then you have to go queen h5. Also, knight g5 could be a little bit of threat, because if you take, there's rook e1. So that's why I just chose queen f5. And here he got really confused because he didn't really know what to do, and gave me chances to just get my pieces out really quickly. That bishop move is good tactic to know. Yeah, the bishop coming back to b6 is good tactic. What about bishop g5? Which position bishop g5 instead of e5? I think bishop g5, it really forces my hands to just play queen g6. And next move I'm gonna try h6 and knight f6 or e7, and it seems to be going decently. e5, queen f5. Let's say queen goes to d1, because that's what my opponent did. Because he got a little bit stuck, he can't just take it, because I take with knight and I'm offering knight exchange, and this is just white's losing all of the center. So also not the most pleasant way to play advance for white. Alright, so he played queen d1, and the pawn eater that I am, I took this pawn, which was not the best move, surprisingly. d5 is the best one, because after, if you take here, now I develop my pieces with tempo. And this is a pleasant position for black. You just play castle and you have some decent targets to go after. But I wanted to cling into the pawns as much as I could. But now white could simply play rook e1. And this would make it really complicated for me. Because if castle, bishop d3, and then rook e4, and you see how everything is like coming up for the attack. So, yeah, getting a little sad, aren't we? Queen d1, I know. So I think it wasn't the best idea for white to play the early queen b3. It's doable, but not the best idea. So my thought process was, if rook e1, I could try h6, so there wouldn't be that much threat. because I showed you if castle, I can't play queen e6 because of different versions of knight g5. So yeah, that was a little bit of sadness over there. So rook e1 would be white's best move. So if you're white and if you're looking for ideas, always develop. Because my opponent played knight e2 to bring in more pieces, which is cool, but not fast enough. So if you're sacrificing pawns, pieces, whatever, you gotta have a good dynamic play. Otherwise, it can get unpleasant fast. So he played knight e2. I'm gonna show you a little bit more quickly because it was pleasant enough to eat another pawn. So I'm 3 pawns up. I already made my castle and have my queen in a decent place, have everything defended. He tried to do a little bit of repetition because he's 3 pawns down, and I ended up deciding to go for some exchange. Again, here he could have tried with like bishop b2 to keep it a little bit more pressured up, but it's not dangerous for black. That's what I'm trying to say. And sorry, scratch that. It's not hard for black to defend the dangers, because there could always be dangers. You could always try to bring pieces. You could always try to create some sort of an attack. But if black plays carefully, black's doing good. So I see there's a chat going on croissants, which I really want right now. Some ham, cheese, and croissant. Ooh. Well, I'm getting hungry. I'm already eating a bunch of pawns. So I'm gonna go quickly on this because it didn't really have that much to look at. Just some stuff to be careful about, because we don't want to lose our advantage. So a little bit of trick over here, a little bit of trick over there, winning more material, and just winning eventually. So alright, I am glad this one is over. There was another advance that I played here, right in the same position. So queen b3 is what we looked at, but d4 is the main one, and d4 take queen b3 is another possibility. Castle, like fast castle, is possible too. Queen, then you come back and then their queen b3s could be, or just take over here, which I've played so much on Twitch recently. And terrible play by white. Cool. Yeah, right? Okay, so possible ways to play this here is still to bring out the knight. No more queen touch, but chat's getting really funny, isn't it? Alright, so let's go back to the game that I had with queen b3 now. So in this game I played queen e7 instead of queen f6, and I played my bishop b6, d6, and I got myself into this e5 position. So here, black to move, what do you want to do? I missed a slight, I missed the best move because I didn't want to risk too much, but let's see if you guys can figure it out. Yeah, so knight a5 is definitely one of the candidates. So it's like the game here right now is between knight a5 and knight e5. So what do you want to do? No, professor, we don't resign. No resigning. So in the game I went with knight e5, and fun fact, this actually was one of my norm games, and I won this game. Yeah, this was actually last round for my second norm. I remember it because I had a flight like 3 hours scheduled after this game to go play in Austria Bundesliga, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna make my flight. I'm gonna miss my flight. I made the flight. I made to my Austria Bundesliga. So, yeah, here I played knight e5, and for I remember in this game I needed a win to get the norm. Otherwise, I would just get another WGM norm. So I really wanted to play it both safe and kind of funky. So knight a5, I didn't trust that knight a5 would be good enough, because I thought if I get myself into this position and I thought I can take and maybe like try and exchange a little bit, I thought this is a bad endgame and I don't want to get into it. And I was kind of right, it's not the most pleasant endgame, but a6 is the move that I missed, to force to exchange it. And now even if you take it over here, you just play knight e7, and I just wasn't comfortable enough with this endgame, because in 2016 I had sad endgame techniques, and that the title, the game that we're seeing is not the game that is shown. Sorry. This was a game against Pukovsky in 2016. Anyways, alright. So he in this position, I just went knight takes e5, and felt really nice. Why not? I wanted to get some pawns, and I didn't see any immediate threat. And I thought, well, this is still doable, and up until this point, I thought knight c3, take, bishop b2. I thought about if rook c1, I always have bishop d2, and if you keep trying to like hunt my bishop, I'll just go for the queen exchange. And I thought this was pretty doable. And there's still lots of dangers and threats, but it was my norm game, so I was willing to bet on my crazy edible pieces. Anyways, knight e5 did feel like a little bit of wrong, but I feel like knight e5, maybe taking wasn't a smart idea, but then again, like take, even if bishop f7, it's just king f8 and everything is safe. So king f8 now, it's even better for me, because I'm actually not out of this fire line. So I don't know, it felt really, yeah, the pieces, my opponent's pieces are always edible. That's rule number 1. Yeah, I was a brave kid, right? Give me this position right now and I might not do the same things. So and then I remember that in the game after bishop b2, I was like, whoa, I'm winning all the pieces, so thank you, opponent. And rook ae1 would have made it more difficult for me, because like this is still like you have a rook, bishop, knight, and like 3 pawns in exchange for queen, but it is kind of unpleasant. And I remember my opponent felt like he was losing, and he just played the other rook to e1, and I was like, great, I'll just eat another rook. So I also got slightly lucky, but I feel like even if he kept his rook, this is still, like, I want to be black in this position regardless, because I just get my knight out. Give me like 3 moves, I get this knight out somewhere, this bishop out, and some g6, throwing a g6 and king g7 in there. If I can get my pieces out, this is still advantage for black. So he just felt like he was losing, and he did some lovely blunders that made my life slightly easier. And instead of being one rook, one bishop, one knight, and three pawns instead of a queen, now I got another rook too. So thanks for that. But yeah, so this was very pleasant, and I won this. And I remember even after winning this, my rating was 2398 live, and I still was like, I still need two more to cross. And first round of Austria Bundesliga, I got that, and I crossed, and I got really hammered, and it was good. It was a good memory. Always crossing those like 2300, 2400s are always really good. So, Super GMs 26 plus. No, I have drawn a bunch, but I don't think I have beaten. Yeah, a little bit. It felt like he did. But, I mean, it was an advantage position anyways. Yeah. Alright, so let's look at another usual Italian one. Okay. So, this was the experience with Lovely Advance. Now, let me show you a game that I had. Just a normal Italian. Well, normal closed Italian. D3. So, over the years, I've played around with moves a lot. Like, I've played early castle, early d6, but the one that I absolutely like is with a6. Because with a6, I actually get a little bit of chance to explore more ideas. I'm gonna show you one of these ideas right now. Let me just, so bishop b3 is one of the ideas, castle is another. It kind of both transposes. The one game that I absolutely liked, this one and this one. So I mixed up a bunch of the games for you to show you. So let's say your opponent plays with bishop d3, you put your bishop on a7, and I like to play d6 first, wait for you to see what you want to do. If you play h3, so it's better to play knight d2 first with white, because it kind of forces my hand to play castle. h6 there's no need for h6 castle. If rook e1, there are lines with knight g4, and then like there's this lovely line that you get to play f5, which is, I like it, why not? So that's why a lot of players with white, like the next three moves, they kind of mix it up. First knight d2, then they play like h3 after castle. So over the years I developed this tiny trick, which I try a lot in Blitz, more than I should, so even if you play like h3 first, or knight d2, but more over h3, because when you play h3, I'm never gonna have this knight g4, knight h6, so I might as well play h6 first. And now, if you play knight d2, I like to play g5. So that's something that I've tried a little here and then, and I'm gonna show this to you really quickly. You can try this a lot, but the one thing that you do have to be careful when g5s is make sure you know what you're doing, because if white gets d4, it could get slightly unpleasant. So I've had experience with knight c4 a lot. Knight h2 is another possibility, but you still do get g4 because there is no f3. I like this knight d2 because it takes away the chances of immediate bishop e3. So let's say knight c4, so bishop e3 could be coming up. g4, take, bishop e3, and I'm getting my chance to, I'm still going to do long castle eventually, and I already have somewhat decent attack. So yeah, I wanted to show this to you a little bit. Okay. Take, you have knight take, and you do your long castle. If knight goes to f5, there are some cool lines with that. This was a game that I played in... Damn, that's an old game. In 2012. I've been trying this a lot in Blitz and Rapid, so I have looked over what I've played previously too. Yeah, if they play h3 too fast, it does give you the chance to start doing some attack on the king side. So that's something that I liked. Do I have any advanced gambit games to show? I just did. I have more, but there are more like online games. Yeah, any questions about endgame? My choice is always the risky one as a beginner, as like the first book to read. Alright, so back to this game. This game, I just wanted to show you the idea. I didn't want to get too deep into it, but just the ideas that you could try out with this g5, g4. So the main idea is that just have to, so you delay your castle, you play a6 first, you play your a6 early on, you save your, you put your bishop in the safe place, then you play your d6, and then you play your h6 because you're never going to play knight g4 anymore after h3, and now if knight d2, you can play your g5. So that's what I wanted to show. If you play it on anywhere, well, only online these days, leave it in the comments below. I do come and read back some of the comments, so it would be nice to see how you guys played. So let me show you another game with rook e1. So this game was also Kid Dorsa playing. I learned a lot about what I liked and what I didn't like in Italian those years, like 2012, 13, because I was starting to actually understand some of the dynamic and strategic aspects of chess more in depth. So that was like my big revelation in Italian, to play like a6 first and like coming up with these tiny little tricks. Yeah. I did say the Wariski's endgame book to answer Imadok's. Alright, back to some moves with chess. So here, g5, it doesn't feel as good anymore. First of all, there is d4. Second of all, I don't think this works, but you still have to keep an eye on it. Some might be a little bit troublesome, but there is always rook g8, so not as much, because there's also bishop h3 coming, so just some stuff to keep in mind. But I think the best one for white is d4, and it's not, another tiny strategy attack is if you're planning on attacking in like king side or queen side, it's best if the center is already closed up. So if the center is still mobile like this, and there are a lot of changes that could be made in center, it's not best idea to attack in the one side. It was slightly different if the knight is on d2, because now d4 you would be also giving up a pawn with white. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so I didn't want to play this g5 anymore, just normal castle. And here there are so many different lines. There is bishop e6, there's knight e7, there's knight h5. I think those are the big ones. There's rook e8. So because, alright, so white's idea is to get that knight to here or there and try and have organize an attack like that, just getting the pieces out, and eventually d4. So that's white's idea. I did I did follow invitational tournament. All right. So my favorite one so far, I tried this knight h5 and it's just not really what it didn't really satisfy me. So I wanted to try bishop e6. Bishop e6, knight f1 seems to be the most common one, because right now d4 doesn't work because I can just take and take back. So knight f1 preparing on d4. With black, there are many different lines to do here again, the many different move orders. So you can try, so the basic idea is with black, you also want to play d5. It's just a matter of when. So in this game, I decided to just go with d5 right away. Take. Knight e5s don't really work because of this lovely sacrifice and picking up the rook. And so my opponent played queen e2. Now she's threatening to take on e5. So I went with queen f6. There are some possibilities of f6, but if you're going to play f6, it's better if your pawn is on h7. So there are no chances of, because this diagonal would be super weak if you play f6 right now. So better not to do that. All right. Ooh, I'm getting so many positivities in chat. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Knight g6 is also possible, but it is possible to play d5 with your knight still on c6. So, okay. Queen e2, I went with queen f6. And then I just put the queen on g6 because of this lovely diagonal. And now, black to move. What do you want to do? Yeah, the sacrifice is pretty nice, right? So black to move. How do you want to spice it up a little? Knight f4 is interesting, but you do have something better. So knight f4 is slightly premature, because if you play knight f4 now, you're just inviting to take, and could also take over here, but perhaps something like knight e4, and you are giving your opponent chances to centralize a little bit. So is there a rule to just play d5? Not necessarily. You just have to be careful to not hang your e5 pawn. Whoops. So instead of knight f4, I went with rook d8, because if you take, now I can also take with rook, or take here, and f2 is falling. So exchanging, getting f2 is much better than e5, especially because right now I have these guys under attack. So rook d8, I just basically put more defense on d5, so my pieces won't be defenseless. Another thing that I've been talking a lot about is not to leave your pieces hanging, and we did a full 10-12 puzzles on it on our Twitch channel with me just on Sunday. So if you feel like watching more puzzles, go on our Twitch channel and check that out. So it was a lot about just not leaving your pieces and pawns hanging. So here my knight and eventually my bishop would be a little bit hanging, so I just brought more reinforcements. Bishop c2. Now black to move. What do you want to do? Yeah, taking d3 pawn also at the end. Yep, loose pieces drop off. Yep, thank you, Fragrance. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, f5. So f5 is cool too. Another possibility to think about is f6, but not my style. d4 is coming up. So f5. And so taking is still not the best idea because simply rook e8. And now I want to just move this bishop and this guy is falling. The queen doesn't really have any decent place to go. So knight e5 doesn't work. So my opponent tried d4, e4. Now, what are you going to do with this knight? Knight d2, there's e3. So you take, your knight falls. So she went with knight g1, and you can already see how everything is getting so suffocated. She could try knight takes e4, take, now knight h4. Queen f7, now queen e4, and I think this was the better one because now this is going over here and over here, so I kind of have to play g5, and after this, if I take it, there is perpetual, there is the chance of perpetual, and if not, I could try for like rook f2, and this is still making things very unpleasant, and white could actually have more game. So there is the chance of knight e4. As white, I think you should try that. You should have tried that. But after e4, yeah, after e4, knight g1, and you can already see that black has advantage. So how do you want to play it out? How about knight e5? Knight e5, I think, I mean, you kind of have to take it, and this pawn seems so vulnerable, and you've already opened up my bishop as well, so I do know that I have advantage. How exactly to use it? Well, easiest case, I can just relocate the knight and go after this pawn with like rook d5. That's the easiest one. Yeah. So knight g1. The easiest way that I wanted to go about it was just to keep more defense with my knights over here. Everything's super defended. Now, what's your next move? If you find this move, it's a very nice mix of strategy and dynamic. So yeah, find this move and you should be good with black. Is it white for black now? It's for black. b5, I think b5 is interesting. Bishop b8, c6 first. Yeah, Professor, you got it. c6 first with idea, bishop b8. Because, think about it logically, this bishop is dead over here. So I might as well get it in the better better diagonal. So c6. Here knight coming to f3 was actually the best option, because you can't take, because you just go to the end game. So that's something that she should have tried, but she went with queen f1 and then bishop b8. Now, what black to move? What do you want to do? So what do you guys think? I'm gonna share a little of psychology aspects. So when you already have a good position like this with black, or with any color, it's really hard for the opponent to actually come up with the best moves. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of actually good chess knowledge to come up with really the best moves for white, because white did have some chances. That earlier sacrifice with knight e4 that we saw, again knight f3 that we saw before queen f1, there are chances to get your pieces active and get the pieces out with white, but yeah, it is not the most pleasant one. Yep. So black to move, what do you want to do? I see some c5. No, your game is on the king side, so yeah, I just saw it. h5 set by Ilya. Yeah, h5 is the good one, because if it's black to move again, you're just gonna eat the piece. Why not? So h4 for white is pretty much the only move. Now what do you want to do with black? I've seen this move slightly earlier on I've seen this move earlier on chat, but no one's saying it right now. Try to think again about the same ideas that you had before h5, h4, h4. Yeah, Fragrance, thank you for the rewarding. You can't think properly when you're under the pressure, under the coach. So keep the pressure on. Yeah, that is one of my main things. Queen g4 is definitely interesting, but queen g4 you could give the chance. Whoops, nope, that is a little too much on bishop g5, and I'm not entirely sure how you want to continue the attack. I guess f4, but I don't really want to get that bishop on g5, because then some f3 ideas could emerge. So maybe not queen g4. Yeah, okay, I see the ideas. Ashik, yeah, e3. So e3 is the best one, because simply you can't take it. I'm gonna eat a piece. Same if you take with bishop. So in order to not lose a piece, you cannot touch this pawn. You have to wait for me to take it, so then you take it back with queen and you're defending your knight. So she tried c4. So if I move the knight, let's say I move the knight somewhere, bishop e3 could be possible. But now we have talked about, and I've shown this move a little bit earlier. And what do you want to do with black? Yeah, e3 was cool, right? Another aspect of e3 is that you block off that bishop. So what do you want to do? Yeah, we do have a Chess 960 tournament tomorrow too, which I will play from 1:30 to 3:30, I believe. And then I'm going to study a little bit for my organic chemistry exam tomorrow night. And I have that exam from 6 to 9 p.m. Lovely, right? What about knight f4? I just take it. f4 for white, it's black to move. So if you play f4, your queen is a little bit under attack. Be careful. Taking on f2 doesn't really work. Queen takes. You want to keep the position all tangled up. So, nope, not f4. So another great difference that this pawn on e3 makes is bishop can no longer come to g5. How can you use this? Nope, not knight f4. Thank you, I do need all the luck for the exam. Nope. Think about how this bishop being stuck here helps you. Queen f6. You have the right idea, but not the best move. Alright, so I got the best move. Queen g4 is the best one. Good one. Okay. So queen g4, the best one. No more bishop g5. So, it's pretty much a game already over. Just a few more moves. She took the bait. Now, how do you want to win this game? You guys already said this move again before, so I'm just going to show it because I already saw lots of recommendations on it. f4. Now it's everything is happening really nicely. Everything is under attack. Lovely, right? If you take, I just take that one first, and now I'm taking everything too, and this bishop is the nightmare. So she tried knight g1. I just simply took this guy and took the other one too. I'm sure something like this also is very pleasant because this is coming up, but I went with bishop here. f3. Okay, one last move for you guys to find. Two moves basically. You do this move, she does that, you do that, and it's winning. I mean, this is already winning, but we can safely resign. Rook f3. Yeah, good one. Thank you, Great Wolf. Thank you, Ilya. After take, g2, and time to go home. After take, just bishop f3, picking up that guy, picking up that guy, picking up everything. And even if you try something like king g1, I'm sure this is still super winning. Can't I just take here? Can I just take here? Everything is winning, isn't it? Yeah, alright. So yeah, this was another game that I wanted to show you. So I've covered some of the big main lines in Italian, and we went over some advanced. And I try to keep it personal between my games and, you know, Chetina and Oscar games. So hopefully you guys learned more about how to play with black and what to look out for with white. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow and the day after.